So when I was in high school in Canada, we played a game called the World Game. And in this game, it's very simple. Okay, you're put into a team of maybe 4 or 5 players, okay? And then each team is assigned a country, like maybe USA, Britain, India, Pakistan, Japan. And then each team is given an envelope, okay? And then within this envelope, you're given certain resources. Okay, so basically, paper, scissors, ruler. Okay? And then there's an organization called the World Bank. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to become the wealthiest country in the world. The way you do that is you take your resources and you turn it into commodities that the World Bank buys from you. Okay, so maybe like triangles and circles and squares, okay? But to create these commodities, you need resources, right? You need scissors, you need rulers, you need paper, you need glue. Okay? But different countries will have different resources. So the United States has everything, okay? And Pakistan is interesting because Pakistan usually gets nothing. Okay? There are no resources. But you're allowed to trade with each other, right? Okay, you're allowed to trade with each other. Okay? So even though you have nothing, you can go to the United States and beg and say, could I please borrow your ruler for today, okay? Then you go to Britain and says, hey, can I borrow your paper for today, okay? Or, hey, I'll come work for you for free, right? You can trade. And so you play this for one day, and it's really interesting what happens. Okay? Usually what happens, I'm not saying all the time, but I've seen this happen a lot. At the end of the day, you look at who are the wealthiest countries in the world, what happens is, well, the United States becomes number 1, okay? Why? Because the United States just has everything in the world. It is the wealthiest country in the world. It has just so much resources, okay? But number 2 is interesting. You would think it would be Japan and Britain, but it's actually Pakistan, okay? The country that starts out with nothing at all. Why? Because you're forced to be the most energetic, the most open, and the most cohesive. Team members have to go and beg to work for free. Okay? Other team members go and lie and cheat and steal. Okay? They're forced to be resourceful and creative. Okay? The world game. And that's how the world works, guys. Just because you have the most resources, just because you have the most people, does not mean you'll win the game at the end. What matters is how energetic your people are, how open they are, how resourceful they are. That's what matters. Okay? And often, they are open, energetic, and cohesive because they're poor. All right? It's that simple. Pakistan has nothing, so they are forced to be creative. Poverty leads to creativity. Okay? Another thing this is that if I were to surmise the future, I would say right now in East Asia, I would think that North Korea has a better future than China. Okay? Just based on history. And it would be like, that's impossible. North Korea can feed its own people. Well, I understand that. But if you know game theory, okay, and you understand the principles that we've learned today, then you're forced to conclude that in East Asia, North Korea has a better future than China. Because ultimately, it's about how open, energetic, and cohesive the people are, as opposed to how rich and powerful you are. Okay? Does that make sense? I will also point out another example. Okay? So before teaching in high school, I was teaching teachers how to teach STEM, okay? STEM education. And I usually run 2-day workshops. And what I would do is I go into a school and I divide the faculty, the teachers, into teams, okay? Like teams of like 4 or 5. And there'd be like 10 teams, okay? There'd be a lot of teachers. And the way I teach is I would give them an assignment. And I would give them resources. And it would be a competition, okay? So for example, let's say that which team can build the fastest car. okay, toy car. Let's look at which team can build the best airplane. Let's look at which team can build a catapult, okay? So I would give them some resources, I give them the assignment, and then they would work on it a whole day, okay? Now, what's interesting is, at the end of the first day, you would have, I would rank the teams, okay? And then day two, we would start the competition again with a new assignment. On day two, which team would finish first? Do you guys know? So after day one, all 10 teams are ranked according to their success, okay? So team 1 has the best, team 10 has the worst. What happened the second day? Can you guys guess?
I think that team 10 wins.
Yeah, okay. According to game theory, what happens is team 10 wins. And this is exactly what happens. The results are reversed, okay? Number 10 shoots up to number 1, and then number 1 falls all the way down. And this is what happens a lot. It's actually common sense if you think about it, right? If you're the best student in the school, you never have to reflect. You never have to think about how to improve, because you're always number 1. So you become arrogant, you become complacent. So after you graduate from school, what happens? You can't find any work because people find you too arrogant. You refuse to learn. You want to be the boss. You want people to just listen to you, okay? But if you're the worst student in the school, you're used to being laughed at. You're used to constantly adapting, okay? So when you go into the workplace, you are much more likely to learn. You're much more likely to focus on relationships, okay? So in China, there's a joke, right? In school, there are 2 people that everyone hates, okay? The best student and the worst student. Why do you hate the best student? Because the best student is going to graduate and come back as your principal one day. Why do you hate the worst student? Because he's going to graduate and come back and give you a lecture on how to become rich. Okay? That's why in China, everyone hates the best student and the worst student. And these are 2 students who will probably be the most successful, okay? Especially the worst student. Because the worst student, regardless of all his problems, he's open-minded. He's willing to work hard. And he's willing to help build teams and make sacrifices so that others become his friend. Okay? All right? Yeah? We have a question?
So for example, for this case, in day 2, the team 10 becomes the first one and the first team becomes the last. But will previously the first team been forced to be open and to be energetic and then be number 1 again on the third day?
That is a great question. Thank you for asking it, okay? So in my experience, this is what happens, okay? What happens is that what happens if we keep on going, right? What happens in day 3? Day 3, day 4, okay? This is what happens. Team 1 really screws up on day 2, right? They finish first in day 1, day 2 they screw up. Day 3 and day 4, they continue to screw up. Why? Because they don't know what they did wrong, and they refuse to reflect. Do you understand? Okay? So we see this in history where an empire, once it rises, it falls, and it never comes back. It never comes back. Do you understand? It never rises up again. Now, it's possible that new people come in and use the name of the empire, okay? But it's not the same people anymore. It's a different team. So that's the danger of being number 1. Once you're number 1, you become so arrogant that it becomes impossible for you to be humble again, okay? Team 2 would go down, okay? So it's very unlikely that you have a system where, okay, team 1, they fall, but then they reflect and become number 1 again, okay? It doesn't work that way.